What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Arman Tsarukyan continues to trash talk Ilia Topuria. If you've been keeping up with the MMA Zone, you know the entire Arman Tsarukyan and Ilia Topuria feud these past few days, so we won't bore you with the recap. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. This morning, Arman decided to take more shots at Ilia Topuria for wanting to fight Paddy Pimblett. He went on X and said, Ilia versus Paddy easily the most fake and mismatched rivalry in UFC history, with a picture that was edited to make Paddy and Ilia kissing in the octagon at UFC 317 and a video of them fist bumping a couple of months ago. Would you be interested in seeing these two fight? Let us know in the comments below. Renato Moicano calls out Michael Chandler to retirement fight. During a recent episode of his podcast show, Renato Moicano called out Michael Chandler to a very interesting fight idea. Moicano proposes that if the two fight, the loser of the fight should be forced to retire. This is what Moicano had to say during his podcast.
Talking about fight, who you want to fight next?
Man, I'll be completely honest with you. The oldest guy on the division, brother.
Who's the oldest guy?
Not Dariush?
Michael Chandler, bro.
Michael Chandler, my brother. I think that fight makes a lot of sense.
There's not a better time for that fight right now.
No, that is not a better time.
Yeah.
That is not a better time for the fight. I have been talking for Chandler for so long. Yeah. And if I lose to him, brother, I will have to myself. That's the I think that's a
How about this, bro? Renato Moicano versus Michael Chandler, loser retires.
100%. Sign that contract, my brother.
Would you be interested in seeing these two fight? Let us know in the comments below. Khamzat giving advice for Dricus Plessis fight at UFC 319. Khamzat Chimaev has smashed most of the opponents he's faced to date, and no one has been able to defeat the Chechen fighter. But as UFC 319 approaches, more than a few fighters are reporting that they see a clear path for Dricus Plessis to hand Boers his first loss. Chimaev has been tapped to fight the middleweight champion at the August 16th card, after winning 8-0 to date in the octagon. Boers locked up a title shot last October by quickly submitting former champion Robert Whittaker. But if you watch this channel regularly, you know not everyone believes it's a wrap that Chimaev is going to hoist the middleweight belt at UFC 319. Case in point, TJ Dillashaw recently warned on the Jackson podcast, Chimaev better get his cardio in top shape as he prepares to battle DDP. Chimaev needs to get on that Sam Calavita cardio because that's his only downfall is getting tired. DDP ain't gonna get tired. He needs to work on topping redline stuff. He goes for the and you can only do that for so long. You have to train that section. Everyone's heart rate, you get into that red zone, you start producing lactic acid. You get tired. The only way to make that better is to be in that red zone for as long as possible and train to be there longer and also get used to it mentally. I would put a lot more money on Chimaev if he trains the right way for his cardio. If he doesn't train his cardio the right way, it's going to be hard for him to put DDP away, and DDP is going to get him in the later rounds and gas him out. It is a valid point. After all, Chimaev has rarely fought into the third round and has never competed in championship rounds. DDP, meanwhile, has gone 25 minutes in 2 of his last 3, and against Israel Adesanya, he tapped him out in round 4. Dillashaw also had this to say about Chimaev and how he matches up against Dricus Plessis. He's good, he's strong, his grappling is better, he's got good technical striking. I just don't think he has the gas tank if he doesn't finish DDP to win the fight. If Chimaev's gonna win this fight, he's gotta break in practice. So you've gotta bring in enough guys to break him because he's going to beat up his training partners. If you're not getting beat up in training, you're not training at the right spot. So it remains to be seen how the fight will unfold at UFC 319 and whether cardio is a factor. But Chimaev is putting at least some road work as captured in this video. Do you see DDP handing Chimaev his first defeat at UFC 319? Ian Garry calls out Belal Muhammad for UFC 319. Ian Garry has been driving hard for a fight with Belal Muhammad, and now the welterweights challenge the former champion to face him in his hometown of Chicago. Ever since Muhammad lost the welterweight crown to Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 315 in May, Gary's been calling him out. While the Irish fighter made it clear that he wants to fight for the title, he understands that Islam Makhachev is expected to battle JDM next. So Garry will need to fight in the interim, and defeating the #1 contender, Muhammad, could be a way to lock up a title shot. Of course, it takes 2 to tango, which is likely why Garry recently challenged Muhammad to throw down at UFC 319.
Belal Muhammad is continuing to call out Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman has said himself that he's not fighting anytime soon. So why does he keep calling him out? Because he's avoiding me. He's now started to mention Sean Brady's name again, a man who he's already knocked out. Imagine calling out someone you've already knocked out. Here's the truth. Had Belal beat JDM, he would be fighting me in his hometown of Chicago. So do the right thing. Don't let your hometown down and accept the fight in Chicago. I'll see you soon.
Will Garry's tactics here work? It is possible. Although when Garry called Muhammad out a couple of weeks ago, the former champion said he would see Garry at Madison Square Garden. The UFC typically hosts cards in New York City in November. Well, Belal saw Ian Garry's comments because he fired back with his own video and called out Garry for using AI to write his trash talk. This is what Belal had to say.
Ian Garry out here trying to do Conor cosplay with Dollar Tree trash talk. Bro, your lines hit softer than your jab. You sound like a teenager who just discovered McGregor highlight reels. You want to outbox me? Try out talking me. First, without embarrassing yourself. Until then, go back to rehearsing in the mirror. Maybe one day your trash talk will be as sharp as your barber's fade.
Would you be excited for this matchup? Let us know in the comments below. UFC Executive talks about UFC Spain. Now that Ilia Topuria has also added the UFC's lightweight title to his resume, talk about the promotion holding a card in Spain has spiked. El Matador lives and trains in the European country, and the UFC has never held an event there. So while it seems like an easy layup for the UFC to hold a card in Spain, now that Topuria has established himself as one of the greatest in the world, it doesn't sound like it's going to happen soon. Recently, UFC Vice President of Regulatory Affairs Mark Ratner spoke with MMA Junkie. While he acknowledged the promotion's interest in heading to Spain, Ratner noted it could be a minute. 2 or 3 years ago, you never heard of Topuria. Nobody knew much about him. Now he's a real star. That's the goal, to go to Spain in the next year or so. In an arena. I don't know if they have the right arenas there yet. Those statements echo what Dana White said immediately after Topuria put away Charles Oliveira at UFC 317. It is the goal. We've been trying to get into Spain for a while here, but hopefully, that's what I want to do, and we'll see if we can get it done. We'll see what's available, and let's see what we can figure out. We're definitely going to Spain. It's just a matter of when. It's also worth noting that Topuria himself expressed reservations about the UFC holding a card in Spain, a key reason being that the event would almost certainly be a pay-per-view card, which would mean the headliner would take place at an absurdly early time in Spain. That's why, when talking to the media before UFC 317, El Matador said this. So to be honest, the conversations that I have with them, I don't know if I want to do it in Spain, in the stadium, because if they make that happen, I have to fight at 4 in the morning local time. I don't want to do that, to be honest. I'm a professional athlete. I want to fight in good conditions, you know what I mean? So if something changed and they're going to do it in prime time, in the local time, of course, yes, it'll be huge. If not, I prefer to fight always in the United States. Could the UFC make an exception and hold a massive event in Spain at a time that suits Topuria? Or does he need to become an even bigger star before the UFC is willing to do that? Robert Whittaker reveals game plan for Reinier de Ridder. Reinier de Ridder has been making some serious noise since arriving in the UFC's middleweight division last year, but that won't stop Robert Whittaker from coming out guns blazing when these two step into the octagon. De Ridder has been booked to fight the former champion at the UFC's next card in Abu Dhabi, going down July 26th. The former champ has been tapped for the pivotal fight after taking out Gerald Meerschaert, Kevin Holland, and Bo Nickel in his first 3 UFC bouts. Well, recently, Whittaker sat down with Main Event TV. When asked for what kind of game plan he has in store for the Dutch Knight, Bobby Knuckles said this. I'm going to come in and try to land a missile on him within the first 30 seconds. I'm going to try to take his head off, so hopefully it works. It's a massive fight for Whittaker, who's coming off a quick submission loss to Khamzat Chimaev. While a loss to RDR isn't catastrophic, it would push Whittaker back a ways in terms of a title shot hunt. And just recently, Whittaker said he wants to fight about 4 more times before he retires. This statement is also a bit more, shall we say, aggressive than what Whittaker had to say about the upcoming fight just a few weeks ago. While speaking to Submission Radio, the former champ had this to say about RDR. He's a dangerous guy, but honestly, I think this fight is going to be one where if I push the pace to where I want it to go, if I control the fight, control the dance, I can take the fight to where I want it to go. I can really maneuver the fight and push it into places where I'm really strong. Do you see Whittaker returning to the win column and ending the rise of RDR? Or will the Dutch Knight score another upset win? UFC updates. Let's take a look at some UFC and fight updates. Recently, Mike's MMA Picks on X pointed out that it's been 2 years since Shane Burgos has fought, while calling for his UFC return. Almost 2 full years have elapsed since Shane Hurricane Burgos last fought. I believe he's a free agent. UFC would be a better place with him back in it. If you're new to MMA or not a hardcore fan, You may not recall that Burgos surprised many back in 2022 by deciding to test free agency and then signing with the PFL. His decision came after he defeated Charles Jourdain. Burgos proceeded to fight 3 times in PFL and went 1-2. Not long ago, Burgos confirmed that he is a free agent now and that he wants to finish his career in the UFC. Do you see the UFC bringing Burgos back? And following Randy Brown's knockout of Nicholas Dalby, he's eyeing his next matchup, and Gilbert Burns is one of the men Rude Boy wants to battle. Brown faced Dalby on April 26 and took him out in the second round. The victory was the welterweight's 4th in his last 5. More recently, Brown spoke with MMA Junkie. While discussing his hopes for his next fight, Rude Boy said this: "I would love October. There's so many different guys I'd love to fight. I know that I'm fighting in the rankings next, so it's moving. The division is moving. So for me, I like Jeff Neal. I think that's a great fight. I also think that Gilbert Burns is another great fight for me. There's so much opportunities right now in the division. I think there's a lot of opportunities for myself." Both of these matchups have the makings of an entertaining fight for sure, but more recently, it's been reported that the UFC is looking at having Neal fight Carlos Prates at UFC 319. And while talking about his last loss, which came by a split decision to Brian Battle in December, Brown said this: "The way the Brian Battle fight went, I personally thought I won. A lot of people thought I won. The company thought I won, but you can't leave it in the hands of the judges. That's just what it is. And yeah, that fight with Dalby was a moment to remind people that I'm still here, I'm still hungry, and I'm still very dangerous, and I belong in the top division with the best in the world." Do you see Brown becoming a top contender in the welterweight division? And not surprisingly, it looks like Benoit Saint-Denis will be fighting on the UFC's next card in Paris, France. Recently, the French lightweight contender posted the following via social media: "It's official. I'll be back in the octagon on September 6th at UFC Paris. Guillaume Peltier is taking care of finding me an opponent. Smart Fight is handling my preparation. Me, I'm ready to give it my all in front of the French crowd." BSD competed in the UFC's last card in France this past September, but he was battered by Renato Moicano, and the fight was ultimately called by the doctor in round 2. BSD returned to the win column this past May by submitting Kyle Prepelic at UFC 315. Who do you want to see BSD fight next? If you're wondering, he's currently ranked number 14 in the lightweight division. Josh Emmett says Dan Ige hits harder than Ilia Topuria. Now that Ilia Topuria has knocked out his 3rd straight opponent, talk about El Matador's punching power continues to be a hot topic. But according to one man who actually faced him, Josh Emmett, Topuria is not the hardest puncher he's battled. As you know, Topuria secured the UFC's lightweight title on June 28th by bombing out Charles Oliveira in the very first round. The victory was Topuria's 3rd straight by knockout. Well, recently, Emmett spoke with MMA Junkie, and when he was asked about the punching power of Topuria, the longtime contender said this:
I was always saying on the regional scene when I fought Christos Yago as a lightweight, we fought, he hit really hard. Dan Ige can crack too.
Dan Ige hits very hard now.
Hits really hard too. So, from just a pure, getting hit with power, you're like, damn, that was a hard punch. I'd say Dan Ige.
This is interesting to hear, although Ige certainly has demonstrated more than once that he can crack. Case in point, of Ige's last 4 wins, 3 have come via his fearsome punches, and 2 of them were knockouts. If you need a refresher, Emmett lost via unanimous decision to Topuria in 2023. However, Emmett wasn't claiming Topuria doesn't hit hard. The veteran also said this: "But the thing with Ilia is his footwork is good. He's always in a really good position. He's fast, and he's very precise and accurate. And so he's not loading up 100%. He's landing with accuracy and precision, with the speed, and that's where the power is. If anyone knows a thing or two about punching power, it's Josh Emmett. Just ask Bryce Mitchell." Dana White receives backlash. Dana White is receiving backlash for events that are held in Saudi Arabia, alleging that the judges are rigged. During a recent episode of MMA Locker Room, UFC fighter Mike Davis talked about his loss against Fares Ziam and hinted that the fights seemed rigged for the fighters fighting in their own region. He even went as far as to say that he won't ever fight overseas again because of the favoritism. Here's what Mike Davis had to say.
There's a lot of politics that go into martial arts as well. And I feel like when you fight overseas, you go to someone else's turf where they already have this massive fan base that's been building. And, the promotion wants a part of that. They want that fighter to grow, especially in Saudi Arabia, where, that was their first event or second event. They're trying. Saudi Arabia's got oil money. Hey, I would do the same. I want my Muslim fighter, my area fighter to win in that fight. I want him to do great. And I'm just saying that I feel like a lot of fighters were flown in and set up for failure. Last time I fought Saudi Arabia, we struggled with getting a hotel on the right time. I didn't even have a hotel when I got there. So I'm not fighting overseas. It's just not going to happen.
Even Joe Rogan referenced that the decisions in the cards overseas seem sketchy, hinting that the outcomes aren't always what they should be.
We've had some decisions that were
Yeah,
What do you think is more corrupt? Vegas decisions or Abu Dhabi decisions? You think?
Oh, all day.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I think they
You
bring
would
the
know.
same judges everywhere, man.
Do they?
Yeah,
Where do the judges
You
sit?
don't think Abu Dhabi got
they
some
sit
Muslim
in-
judges?
I mean, I don't
What do you think?
I don't know
I
what
don't know
the
the
rules are. I think
commission
in
on that.
You should
some
know that.
places,
You should know that.
in
Get
some,
on top.
I know they do referees in some places. So, like, say if you go to a state like Kentucky, for example, you have to use a certain amount of state referees,
Yeah.
and some of them aren't really qualified to be doing a UFC.
At
Like
this
that happened
level,
in Salt
yeah.
Lake City.
Yep.
He missed a nut shot or an eye poke. I forget which one it is, but they kicked that guy out. So it does happen occasionally. I feel like 3 is too little. 3 opinions
agree
is
with
just
that.
not enough.
Should
I
be
think
6.
I think Glory has 4 or 5. I think you should have 5.
Do you think the judges in the fights overseas are rigged to favor the fighters from their country? Let us know in the comments below. We have a favor to ask. Help us reach 200,000 subscribers on MMA Zone by subscribing and turning on notifications for daily MMA content. Seriously, we rarely miss a day.